Hey guys, I'm talking about layering fragrances today. Why would you do it? How do you do it? And what would you do it with? So, I wasn't a fan of layering fragrances right off the bat. I thought, why ruin the fragrance? If it's made as is, why would you want to change the fragrance? Sure, I wasn't a fan, but within the last 5 to 6 years, maybe even 7, I started getting into layering more and more because somehow accidentally I would layer fragrances together and I would love the way they smelled. So now I'm into layering fragrances. I don't do them all the time, but if I want to change up the fragrance a little bit, then at that time I would do it. And the way I do it is I have to find a way for one fragrance to connect with the other fragrance. Otherwise, it could be a complete disaster and totally clash. So I'm always looking for fragrances that can connect together. You have an idea in your mind that some smells could be combined together. You're going to be your own mixologist, a fragrance mixologist. So you have a big collection and you kind of have an idea of that fragrance will work great with that one. Or I've smelled this food item with this item and this fragrance features those food items. And this is how you're going to start exploring and seeing if the fragrances would layer together perfectly. So you want to do that because you also are in a circle of friends and relatives and family that all wear similar fragrances. And so when you connect or meet up or gather, you guys are all smelling the same. So you're going to want to stand out. You're going to want to make an original fragrance so that when you're together with the family and friends, your fragrance doesn't smell like their fragrance, and so on and so on. So this is the reason why you would layer. But again, do it carefully because there's going to be some clashes that happen. But most of the time, I think some of these work because, first off, let me tell you about one of the layering combos. We're going to go with Jusbox's 54, this awesome fragrance that I helped create. It features the notes of patchouli, chocolate, there's pina colada, rum, vanilla, there's tobacco, sandalwood, and a few other notes. So it's a beautiful, creamy, milky, boozy patchouli vanilla gourmand. It settles to a chocolate milk on skin, but more about the chocolate milk. But what I decided to do one day is layer 54 with Profumum Roma's Sorriso, so it amped up the chocolate and gave me more chocolate with that whole creamy milk chocolatey effect. So basically, taking myself back in time, when I'm making chocolate milk, rather than making a little bit of chocolate milk, I am squeezing more of that chocolate inside the milk so it has a more chocolatey taste. It's exactly what I'm doing here with combining 54 with Sorriso. You don't have to do it with Sorriso. You can do it with another mostly chocolate fragrance. So when you smell this, you smell mostly chocolate. Sure, behind it there's other smells, but it's all about the chocolate. And with 54, Sorriso becomes even more of like a potent chocolatey 54, creamy, milky, boozy with an overdose of chocolate, and chocolate really blends perfectly with patchouli or patchouli focused fragrances. And this is also, the 54 is also creamy. It just makes for a very intoxicating smell. So this is the first layering combo that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Let me give you another one. I've mentioned this one quite a bit. Akro's Awake with Dark creates a chocolate mocha effect, like a mocha coffee effect. So basically, Awake is coffee and cardamom. Dark is dark chocolate with, I believe, hazelnuts. And when you layer these two together, it's a perfect combination, and you really have that chocolate mocha effect. And the thing with layering is also, which I didn't mention, look for fragrances that connect, not only connect, but also look for fragrances that are not super dense, super highly concentrated, super busy, and not having the space to do the layering with. There are some extrait de parfum fragrances out there in the world that are so highly concentrated and highly dense. They don't have enough room for layering. These fragrances from Akro, to me, Akro I think is a great house to layer. Their fragrances lend themselves to layering so much. And these two together, really great mocha effect. And I like that. I'm a gourmand lover. Individually, they're fine. But when you wear the fragrances of Akro, they come off a bit thin, a bit transparent, a sheer. So this is the kind of fragrance that actually gives you the space to layer your fragrances. If you haven't tried this combo, please do. I highly recommend it. But let's talk about another fragrance from Akro, this time Smoke. And Smoke is a smoky tobacco fragrance which has a sweetness in the dry down. It has benzoin, but also Sexual Healing from Art Meets Art. It is a bit tobacco vanilla-like, but it's got a lot of creaminess. But it doesn't have any smoke. So the two connect, because I always get a bit of a tobacco vanilla vibe from Smoke. So you're basically adding a smoky layer to this mostly creamy, leafy tobacco, spicy with ginger, zing and all that to the mix. So you're adding that smoke to this, so it amplifies the tobacco-ish touches even further. And this is also creamy, as I said. And the Akro is dry and also sheer. That transparency is what you need, so it doesn't overwhelm and take over. And the two together, what a combo. You're getting a very kind of a smoky take on this buttery, creamy, gingery, zing, spicy tobacco fragrance of Sexual Healing. So this combo is awesome. This Sexual Healing was in our mystery box recently, and I'm sure you've heard about Smoke. Those two layers so wonderfully together. I highly recommend you guys try that. But this next layering combo, this is a fragrance from the house of Omanluxury. It's called Royal Incense. I really love it. It's a honeyed incense fragrance. Not only does it remind me of the now discontinued by Kilian Incense Oud, but it also reminds me that there's rose in there. There's geranium, no rose mentioned, and I feel like the perfumer has brought out the rosiness of the geranium. And I felt like, I think you can add rose to this and make it even further rosy, and it sure really worked. So Rose de TAIF Extrait de Parfum, even though it's a concentrated, like a thick Extrait de Parfum, it's not a busy fragrance. This is the word I was trying to say. If a fragrance is too busy, it's not easy to layer with. This is not so busy, and it's mostly about the rose, just like the Sorriso, which is mostly about the chocolate. This is mostly about the rose, and it makes it perfect to layer with Omanluxury's Royal Incense. And basically you're bringing out more rose because there is a rosy quality with the Royal Incense, and it makes for a really, really intoxicating combo. Super awesome. Try this layering duo. It works great. It smells great. It also intensifies the fragrance. I absolutely love that combo so much. So basically, you're amplifying the rosy touches from Royal Incense because, you know, they don't have rose mentioned. Maybe they do in the notes breakdown, they just haven't credited it, but they do have geranium, and sometimes you can get rosiness from geranium. This next combo is also really, really great. One of my favorite fragrances from the Boss, the collection series of fragrances, is Magnetic Musk. Love it. It's so good. It's almost like taking Dior Homme Intense or Dior Homme Parfum, mixing it with bee. So it's kind of a honeyed, powdery, then adding musk to it. But I felt like the musk is not on the animalic side. So what do? I intensify the musk with Sadonaso. Because Sadonaso has some sweet, honeyed effect, ambery effect happening. But even though it's an extrait de parfum, it's not super busy. It's not super dense. It's an extrait de parfum, but it acts not so dense, you know? And it works so well with Magnetic Musk. So you've got the Dior Homme Intense like experience with the bee experience, the honeyed powdery touches, but you're just basically adding more kind of a slight animalic funky musk to this. Oh man, it is so super sexy. So super delicious. This combo rocks, guys. If you haven't tried it, please do. If you have these two, this collection, I think, is a very underrated and maybe underwhelming collection. Most of the fragrances are a bit underwhelming, but this stuff I saw and I loved it. I think these fragrances might be getting discontinued. I need to have a backup of this because this stuff is so good. If you haven't tried Magnetic Musk, try it. If you're a fan of Dior Homme Intense, Dior Homme Parfum like me, and you also love bee, it's the kind of vibe it gives me. And then again, as I said, the Sadonaso added to it. Super sexy. Super, super sexy. And again, I'm finding notes that work together, you know? It's called Magnetic Musk, right? It's a musk. And then, of course, Sadonaso is a musk. It's also honeyed here with the Magnetic Musk. There's a honeyed quality about the Sadonaso. So they have to complement each other. And, you know, you're not making the fragrances clash. Plus, the fragrances are smelling different, so you will stand out from the crowd. Your fragrances will not blend with other people's fragrances, and so on. So this next combo I've also highlighted on the channel before. Sunset Hour from Goldfield and Banks with Pacific Rock Moss. Sunset Hour to me is also very sheer and ethereal, very airy, flowy, fruity, sparkling effervescence. And then the Pacific Rock Moss has that kind of a creamy, beachy, marine kind of a touch to it. And for me, I've always envisioned Sunset Hour having that kind of a sea breezy effect happening. So the two work really wonderfully together, whereas Sunset Hour has some creaminess, and then also there's a bit of beachy creaminess with the Pacific Rock Moss. So the combination works really wonderfully together. So you're adding this kind of a slight coconutty creaminess, marine-ish touches from the Pacific Rock Moss, the mossy, because it's a moss note, to the mostly fruity effervescence, almost like champagne-like fruity qualities of the Sunset Hour, and making for a really nice beachy, tropical, fizzy, playful kind of a fruity fragrance. This combo really works great together. And even though these are eau de parfum fragrances, they do have room to layer with. They are not super dense, super busy fragrances. If you haven't tried this combo, please do. I recommend that combo quite a bit. Next, we're layering these two fragrances. One's from L'Artisan Parfumery. It's Mandarina Corsica. So this is Mandarina Corsica from L'Artisan, created by Canton Biche. It's kind of like a mandarin orange gourmand, but not super sticky gourmand. There's caramel here. There's also tonka, but it's not like an uber intense cakey, sweet gourmand. It's a citrusy gourmand. But what I wanted from this was to amplify the citrusy touches and to make it a bit more fresher, more, juicy citrusy. So I layer it with the Mandarino. So this is Mandarino from Laboratorio Olfativo. This is Mandarino Corsica. So the two together are so yummy. You basically intensify the mandarin orange qualities of the L'Artisan Mandarina Corsica. Mandarino, that's the difference. French and Italian. So it just makes for a more mandarin orange forward, kind of a sweet, caramelly gourmand. It's not super gourmand by any means, by the way, but, now I'm amplifying more of the citrus mandarin orange touches by adding the Mandarino. And it makes for a really awesome smell. Really love those two together. I wanted a bit more depth with the citruses, and I get that with that combo. And this layering combo I've also recommended before, and I think it really works. This actually complements one another because Oud Ispahan is focused on the rose and oud. Diptyque's Oud Palau is a lot of oud. It's an animalic style of oud, which is perfectly done, by the way, for a mass market brand for oud fragrance. It's 10 years old, by the way. There's a slight rosy touches in there, but when you smell this, when I smell it, I get Oud Ispahan without the rose. When I smell the Oud Ispahan, I get the, like what I'm familiar with, but an overdose of rose. So what happens is the Oud Ispahan is on the light side. The Diptyque is pretty potent, so it balances each other out and makes for a bit of a rosy combo. And rose and oud is a really great combo where we've experienced it so much, but really intensifies the fragrance and makes it rosier. It balances out the rose, the oud a little bit as well, and makes for a bit, more interesting wear, because the Oud Ispahan has gotten quite thin. It's gotten quite thin. And of course, as I said, the Oud Palau is definitely really, it's not like super beast mode, but it is much more potent to me than the Oud Ispahan. And it kind of balances it out and makes for a really wonderful layering combo. So if you have fragrances like these, test them out and see, and try and accomplish some really awesome layering duos. Now, this fragrance is quite popular, but I think it is also a bit polarizing. This is KIEHL'S Original Musk. I don't get much animalic qualities from this, but some people say it's too pissy, too animalic. I love it, but if I wanted to be a bit more potent, I would recommend layering Original Musk with Monoscent G from What We Do Is Secret. So basically, this is Galaxolide Super, and I believe what they have in Original Musk is what's in here. This is kind of like an eccentric molecules type fragrance. It's one ingredient. It's a musk basically, slightly animalic. But what you're doing with this, by combining with this, is amplifying the musk in here. So it acts a bit more musky. I believe this also has other notes, like I think there's jasmine in here, which probably assists with providing a bit more of a funky kind of a characteristics to the musk in here. But you're intensifying the fragrance, because I get complaints that this is too weak, too fleeting and things like that. But the two together really balance each other out, makes it for a bit more beefy. And also, you know, you're prolonging the life with some of these fragrances a little bit as well, because you're, you know, amplifying your sprays and things like that. So it does make the fragrances last a little longer. But this combo is so good. And the color of the bottles are also the same, as you can see. But next, going to the house of Mugler. We've got two Mugler, and these are also feminine fragrances. But I'm actually addicted to the way this fragrance smells. This is Angel Stellar. So delicious, guys. It is stellar, right? Yes, Angel Stellar with the pistachio. You want to bring out the pistachio in this a bit more. How about connecting it with pistachio from Dias and Durga? Yes, because Dias and Durga's pistachio, I did get a slight Mugler Angel kind of a DNA behind it, because it does have patchouli. So basically what you're doing is you're kind of connecting similar kind of notes to not clash, and they're not clashing here. You're basically intensifying the pistachio here, because Angel Stellar has pistachio. So you're giving it more of this kind of a creamy pistachio effect. And the fact that it has patchouli in there, you're balancing it out with the patchouli that's already in Angel Stellar. So if you want something a bit more pistachio, do that. You know, if you have this, or you have another pistachio focused fragrance, where once again, you're going to have to think, is it all about the pistachio, or is there a lot of other things happening? There's not a lot of other things happening here with pistachio by Dias and Durga. That's why I feel like it works well. If there's a pistachio fragrance that also has cherries and almonds and, you know, whatever, that might clash with Angel Stellar, but this is a lot about pistachio, so it kind of balances it out. So these two work really wonderful together, Angel Stellar and Dias and Durga's pistachio. And then these two, another Mugler feminine fragrance, Alien Goddess with Ylang d'Or from Maison du Roc. So Alien Goddess is a solar fragrance. I don't think it has any Ylang Ylang, and Ylang d'Or is a beachy tropical solar fragrance. So you're giving it a boost of like tropical floral touch. I think the Goddess, Alien Goddess, is also vanilla. There might even be orange blossom here, but it could be jasmine, I think. But the two together really work wonderfully, because jasmine and white floral notes work really well with the yellow flower touch of Ylang d'Or, but this also has white flowers in it. It's a very solar fragrance, and you're just basically boosting it up, making it a bit more beachy and tropical, and intensifying it, because this is Maison du Roc's Ylang d'Or is an extrait de parfum. The Mugler is an eau de parfum, and really wonderful. The thing I forgot to mention is you're going to have to find the right balance of sprays. You might need to do more sprays of the Mugler in comparison to the Ylang d'Or, because the Ylang d'Or is an extrait de parfum. The Mugler is an eau de parfum, so it might be weaker next to the Ylang d'Or, but you know, you'll play around with it and you'll figure out a nice balance between the two fragrances. But these two work really wonderfully together if you haven't tried them. Ylang d'Or by Maison du Roc and Alien Goddess by Mugler. All right, I haven't been flipping over my papers, but the fragrances are all laid out. But the next combo I think that's really great is Bulgari Tigar with Maison Cyr Eau de Gingembre. There's supposed to be ginger in here. It's also grapefruit. But what you're doing is this is a very fresh ginger fragrance. It's super zingy. So basically you are adding the ginger to what's in Tigar. The Tigar has the grapefruit. It has ambroxan, I believe, and some woodsy notes and maybe some ambery notes. And you're just adding a boost of ginger. You're freshening it up a little bit, because the Tigar is very dry to me and the Eau de Gingembre is more juicy, fresh. So you're kind of balancing it out. You're giving it more zing. But still, when it combines together, it kind of blends together, and the zinginess is amplified because, you know, the grapefruit already has that zing and a bite and a kick. So you're increasing it with the fact that you're adding this fresh, also kind of juicy take on ginger. This is Eau de Gingembre. It's kind of simplistic, so it really layers perfectly with the Tigar, because, you know, you want something simplistic and nothing too overwhelming or too, you know, busy, as I was mentioning. But those two work really wonderful together. So you get a boost of ginger with the Tigar, which I believe it features ginger, but I don't think they credit it. I think it does have ginger in it. But next, we're going to the House of Karine Reutefeldt with Karine, which is a white floral gardenia, jasmine, patchouli combo, and you are combining it with Nisaba Sulawesi. So this is a patchouli-focused fragrance, and the two together, you're basically amplifying the earthy patchouli touch. This is also very earthy. Sulawesi is, I believe, in Indonesia, where patchouli comes from, and this brand is known for various parts of the world and focusing on certain parts of the world where their fragrances are inspired of. And patchouli comes from Indonesia, I think from this region, Sulawesi. So the fragrance is about patchouli. So basically you're adding this kind of earthy, woody, sparkly, sexy layer to Karine, which is already a pretty sexy fragrance. It's a nice fusion of white flowers like gardenia, jasmine with patchouli. Great creation by Dominique Ropian, and just intensifying it with the patchouli and boosting up its earthy woodiness. Really great combo. If you haven't tried that, you can try it. You can also do it with another one here, something like Molecule 1 plus patchouli with the Karine. I think that also would layer really well, but I've got that saved here for another fragrance. But next, we are talking about two fragrances that are on the mossy side. We've got Mousse Illuminée by Rogue Perfumery and Moss Plus from Commodity. So these two together, they do smell different, but the fact that they have moss kind of balances each other out. They're also quite green. And what we're doing here is adding a bit of bitter petitgrain citrusy touch to the Mousse Illuminée. So you're intensifying it with the mossiness and also giving it a bit of a green bitter citrusy freshness. It's also kind of woody as well. The leafy notes act a bit woody, but more green citrusy woody. And so basically that's what you're doing with the two fragrances. You're intensifying it with the mossy qualities because Mousse Illuminée is moss. You've got Moss Plus here, it's a mossy fragrance, but there's loads of petitgrain here also in combination. So you're just giving it more of a earthy, bitter, green citrus edge to the fragrance. Great combo, really works. I've found these balances to work perfectly. I want to make sure the fragrances are not clashing and they're, balancing each other out. And speaking of commodity, we've got Milk here, and then we've got Molton Brown's Milk Musk. Milk Musk is a very ethereal and airy fragrance, and I feel like Milk, the original Milk, balances it out and gives it a bit of woody depth. It's got this creamy, woodsy characteristic, and the fact that this is, on that ethereal, airy side, you're going to balance it out and give it a milky edge with a lot of woods, and it grounds the fragrance further and gives it depth with the base notes here, because I feel like Milk is a very heavy base notes, heavy fragrance, and with Milk Musk, I felt it was more airy and more like top heart and maybe more like an airy base notes fragrance. So it just balances out the fragrance, but it doesn't clash because they're both about milk. It's just adding a bit of that dense woody touches to the base with the milk from Commodity. Let me know if you've tried any of these combos. I'd like to find out. Now, Kerosine's Unknown Pleasures is a lemon chiffon like Gourmand, and I always feel like it could use a boost of lemon. So what do? I boost it with Aqua Viva from Profumum Roma. So that gives it a lemony kick, so a lemony edge. So basically, you're intensifying the lemon, but you're not clashing it because Unknown Pleasures already has lemon. So you're just intensifying it, and it blends well because they've already blended the fragrance with lemon, right? So it's more of a fresh, citrusy, lemony take on Unknown Pleasures, and it works really wonderfully. Try that if you haven't. I highly recommend it. And this next one, I've got a polarizing fragrance, Vanilla Sex from Tom Ford, but also Tonka Latte from Parfums Dusita. That combo is so delicious. Vanilla Sex is like an almond nougat. It's so good. Creamy, but not milky, but you're adding more almond, Tonka, and almonds to the mix and giving it a super creamy edge. I get similarities from the two, and the two work so super deliciously together. It also makes the fragrance super strong and potent. Very delicious combo. It's so super delicious, guys. This combo is great, and there's no clashing here. There's complementary notes. they work really wonderfully together. So Tonka Latte and Vanilla Sex, it's a super delicious combo. And then we've got Voyager's Criollo, this fragrance. Are you guys familiar with this fragrance? And then Feve Gourmand from Guerlain. They're very similar fragrances. As I've mentioned, the Guerlain Feve Gourmand I felt like was a bit weak and is a bit faint and not so loud and strong and deep. So both fragrances have similarities. They're kind of chocolate, praline-y, kind of fruity, slightly boozy, and they basically intensify each other without clashing. So you're just boosting up the fragrance, making it deeper, richer, more intense, and things like that. So this combo is super delicious. You might not know Criollo as much, but Feve Gourmand, you know, and again, I think you guys agree with me. Some people say it's not, it's super strong. It's very weak on me for some strange reason. But the two fragrances together really balance each other out, make more of a potent experience. And then we've got this combo. This is Pierre Guillaume's Cosé, and I'm combining it with this fragrance once again, Sorriso by Profumum Roma. So Cosé also has chocolate, but it's absolutely not anything like Jusbox's 54. It's a dry fragrance. It also has cannabis, so it's got this green bitterness, but I'm adding more chocolate to it because this has cacao, and it's making the fragrance a bit more creamy, bringing out a lot of its chocolatey touches, but still having that cannabis, kind of that camphor menthol-like vibe with the patchouli that's in here. It makes it really super delicious. It's a great combo. If you like that idea, try those two together. You can also boost up its patchouli by layering it with something like Molecule 1 plus patchouli. Cosé and Molecule 1 plus patchouli works really well. And then we've got this combo, Iris Malikhan from Maison Crivelli, leather, the leather extract from Memo PERRIS. Basically, the two together gives me Italian leather. Memo PERRIS has a fragrance called Italian leather. So you're basically boosting up the leather because Iris Malikhan also has leather in it. So you're adding more leather to it. So it's more of a leathery take on Iris Malikhan. So these combos really, really work wonderfully together. I'm going to end it with one more combo here. Going back to Jusbox's 54. Now, if you thought didn't have enough patchouli, I would layer the 54 and spritz on top Molecule 1 plus patchouli. So this way, you're increasing the patchouli and making it a lot more patchouli and less creamy gourmand. So it's going to increase its intensity of the patchouli and also make it drier, because for me, Molecule 1 plus patchouli is a dry fragrance. The patchouli and the fragrance 54 is more creamy, so it's going to give it a bit more balance. But I think if you want the gourmand touch, the Sorriso really works wonderful together. And the fact that 54 is a thick fragrance but not overwhelmingly busy, it does lend itself to layering perfectly. Anyway, I hope that helped you guys with layering. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know some great layering combos that you do. We only did 2 fragrances. I know you can do it with 3, but it gets a lot more complicated. So we thought, let's just do 2 fragrances. But if you have any 3 fragrance layering combos, let me know what they are. And of course, let me know any 2 fragrance layering combos. Do add a comment below. And what kind of things do you do to make sure your layering combos are perfect? Do add a comment below. Thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions or comments, list below. Please like this video. Give a thumbs up. As I said, please help. And then also subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button and also the bell icon. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.